Everyone, it's Carrie from Carrie's Wreath Creations. I am here today with a tutorial to make an all ribbon wreath. So you may have purchased this from me as a kit if I had any available in my Etsy shop, but if not, I will be going over the supplies that you need. So even if you haven't purchased a kit, you can still make this wreath at home. It's a very simple wreath to put together, great for beginners. So I'm going to be working with, as far as supplies, I'm going to be working with 2.5-inch wired ribbon. I'm only going to be using one kind here. However, depending on the ribbon that you have, if it was through a kit or just ribbon that you have on hand, you could use more than one kind of ribbon. I am using 2.5-inch ribbon, and I feel that it's going to give me a nice full wreath. If you do use 1.5-inch ribbon, you might need to make some alterations and you might need more of it in order to fully cover the board. So speaking of the board, we are going to be working with the Unique in the Creek wreath board. So I've already started this wreath, so I'm actually going to turn it over and show you the back. As you can see here, it's Unique in the Creek. This is a small board. It does come in different sizes and there are other shapes as well. These wreath boards are really great for beginners and for anyone that wants to put together a flower style wreath. Lots of other styles you can use this board for too, but they're very easy to use. You're not going to see so much on the front, but I will sort of bring it in here. If you can see right there, it might not be really visible on camera, but the number 3 is right here and the number 4 is right here. So going on to the back again, our rows, and when I talk about them, I refer to them as row 1, which is the outside, row 2, the next one, row 3, and row 4. So for this particular wreath, we're going to be attaching our ribbon with zip ties, and we are going to utilize all of the pairs of holes on row 1, which is 16, okay? I've already done those, and I am going to cut the ribbon and show you how to put them in, so no worries there. But it's 16 on row 1, and if you look up here, you have 2 spare holes. That's to put a hanger on, so a piece of fish line, twine, string, whatever you're going to use to hang your wreath. You can even use an extra zip tie, will work as well. So row 1 has 16 pairs of holes, so 16 ribbon petals, if you want to call them that. Row 2 has 8, okay? Row 2 does have a spare hole, and we're not using it for this style. However, if you were going to be mixing in some thinner ribbon, like 1.5-inch ribbon, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be using that, you might need to utilize that hole, perhaps by sharing holes, which means that you're going to maybe put a zip tie between the pair and the single hole, and then again this direction. So that just gives you more options to fill in your wreath if you want to utilize those holes. We are not going to do that here. Row 3 has 8 pairs. Okay, again, the option to share if you needed to, but we're not going to here. And then row 4, which is the inside here, we are going to share holes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of holes. And then the shared holes go again from the one pair to the next pair. So that gives us a total of 8. Okay, now the board does not come with the zip ties on it. If you are totally unfamiliar with the boards, let me pull one up here. This is actually one that I modified, but that's okay. I'm just going to show you how you load the board. I'm using 6-inch zip ties, and to put your zip tie into the board, all you do is, now your zip tie has a flat part and then the little square part. So you want to make sure you're putting it in the right way, because otherwise it won't latch, and you do want it to latch properly. So I'm putting it so that I'm holding it so the flat part is towards me. Okay. And then I'm putting it down one hole and up the next, just like this. Okay. And then I just latch it until I hear it click just a few times. Okay. And that's how we preload the board. I put all my zip ties in first, so that my board is ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about then the ribbon. So I gave you those counts of how many are on each row. It's a total of 40 petals. So you do need 40 pieces of ribbon, and I'm going to be cutting my ribbon at 12 inches. Actually, I already did that. I think that this is going to give us good coverage on the board. You're certainly welcome to play around with different lengths. However, if you did buy a kit from me, you will have enough to make 40 12-inch petals, okay? So these are 12 inches. The last thing we'll talk about as far as what we're going to need is something for the center. So this is supposed to look like a flower. I am going to be using this green glitter rope center that I made. If you purchased a kit, you're more likely going to get a felt to make a center. There's a link in the description box below if you're interested in learning how to make a felt center, but that typically is what I include when I have ribbon wreaths, just because they are more cost effective, and again, you get to make it yourself. If you were interested in purchasing glitter rope and creating a center like this, I would suggest looking on Etsy for glitter rope. It tends to be a bit hard to find and is also a little bit on the costly side. So felt is a nice inexpensive way to make a really cute flower center. So if you bought a kit, you're likely going to get 2 pieces of felt in order to make a center. If you're doing this on your own, completely on your own, you can do whatever you want for a center. You could even put a round wreath sign. You do need scissors. You need something to clip your zip ties with. I'm going to be using this zip tie gun. This comes from Amazon, and what it does is it tightens and cuts all at the same time. You might also want a clip. I'm kind of playing around with using it and not using it. All right, so let's talk about now on our ribbon petals. I did angle the ends of the ribbon to make it just look a little nicer. So let's talk about how we're going to do that. So I have my 12-inch piece of ribbon, and because I'm a little bit particular, I want all my angles to be the same, okay, when I cut my angles. And so I'm going to cut them. What I'm going to do is line this up on my cutting mat and just measure over 2 inches, which is right here. And then I'm going to cut from here towards the corner. So it's like a 2-inch diagonal, if you will. That's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm actually going to do both ends at the same time, okay, because I do actually want them to both be the same. So I'm just going to fold that over. And here's where I was using the clip, where if I want to just hold it together, make it easier for myself when I cut. But again, I'm cutting and I'm being I'm measuring, but I'm not being exact. I need to start cutting right here where my thumb is, okay? And then so I just cut and cut towards the point there, just like this, okay? And so then I have my ribbon, okay? And I do want these to be going the same way, so you have a long end and then a short end. You don't want to have them going opposite directions, okay? So let's get those cut real quick here. I just saved the last 8 to add to the board. And oops, I'll just do them all the same way, I suppose. Go like this. And okay, this is optional. I think it looks a little bit more finished if you do this. And you could also do, like, you could dovetail. The opposite of dovetailing is with the ducktail, where you have kind of a V at the end. You could do that too. Lots of options for how to kind of make this just look a little bit more finished. I know when I cut my ribbons, I don't always do a nice straight cut at the end, because I know I'm going to be doing either dovetail or ducktail or this angle. So just cleans it up a little bit. And again, these are 12-inch pieces. I had thought that, if you were going to be mixing in some different kinds of ribbon, I don't think you would notice so much with a wreath like this where we're using all the same kind of ribbon, but if you were maybe using different kinds, it might be interesting to vary the length of your ribbon a little bit, maybe on different rows, to see what that looks like. I guess it would just really depend if, as long as you're covering the board. These ribbon wreaths are very versatile. They really let you, be creative, because you can do so many things with them. There's lots of different, actually, if you go to my YouTube and you subscribe and look at my channel, I have a couple of other ribbon wreaths that I have done in different styles, sometimes with looping the ribbon creating loops before I add it to the board. I've done ones where I kind of do a version of what I'm doing now, but I add in like a little accent piece in the middle. So there's lots of things you can do, and this is a great project if you have some ribbon laying around that you maybe you just don't need to make as many bows as you thought you did with all that ribbon. So what else are you going to do with it? You can do this. If you're working on your own without a kit and you do need a Unique in the Creek wreath board, be sure to check out the description box below. I do show you where you can, a link to, I do have an affiliate link for them where you can find those boards. Okay, that's the last one I needed to cut. So, again, the clip is optional. I just find it kind of helps keep everything in place while I'm cutting, okay? So now this is going to be very simple, okay? Now, all these other rows, I mean, you are going to make some adjustments as you add your ribbon. What I did on the outside, and maybe you don't notice so much, there was a little bit of overlap between the petals. So I kind of just made sure that the left petal was always going over the right petal on the next one over if we're looking counterclockwise, if that makes sense. Just for some consistency. You don't really notice too much because it's all the same kind of ribbon. But on rows 2 and 3, there's really no overlap between the ribbon, so you just kind of put them in and fluff them out. Row 4 here that we're working on, we are going to have some overlap, so I am going to do sort of a consistent pattern. So this is very simple. All you do is you fold this in half. You don't really need to do a hard crease because all you're doing is finding the center, okay? And you scrunch up this, up the center just like that, okay? And then you just bring it up, like, so it looks kind of like wings, okay? And you just pinch right there, okay? Make sure these are even, okay? And just about a fingertip width is going into the board, okay? So I'm gonna add that in, and tighten that, okay? So again, just about a fingertip width is in the board, okay? And I'm just gonna kind of straighten this out a little bit. And now I'm gonna go ahead and add my next one. I'm gonna go ahead and work in a clockwise direction. So again, just find the center, scrunch just like this, okay? Bring your two ends together so you have like a little flying V, okay? And then that's going to go into our zip tie. So it is going to overlap because we are sharing holes, okay? And so I'm going to just keep it consistent since I'm going to work clockwise here. This left petal is going to be over the right petal of the previous petal, the previous little ribbon petal there, okay? Just makes it consistent looking. And if you follow the same way all the way around, it'll look consistent. The only thing you'll have to do is at the very end, the last one you add, you'll have to make a little adjustment, which is easy enough to do. You might be wondering, why did I need to add in these, you know, if I'm sharing holes here on row 4, why am I doing that? You do want to make sure the whole board is covered. So, you know, that's going to come to, you know, making sure you're using, depending what ribbon width you're using, you know, to make sure that you're not seeing the board. You might need to add some more shared petals in the shared holes, like I mentioned before. But also when we get done, we're going to make some adjustments to the petals, make sure we don't see any of the board. And, you know, this is wired ribbon, so you can kind of you can fluff it a little bit, fluff it out and make it stand up a little bit and kind of cover any of those gaps that you might be seeing, okay? So again, just find the center. You don't really need a hard crease or anything. You just need to know where it is. And if you're good and just want to eyeball it, that's fine too. You just want to make sure your V is nice and even. And put that into the board. Just like this. Okay. And right here. So this is a quick little project. I think actually cutting the ribbon probably takes more time than anything else. Once you kind of get through that, and honestly that's something you can work through, how to make that process go a little faster. If you have like there are some tools you can buy, like ribbon tail boards that have measurements on them, where you kind of just wrap your ribbon around them and then you cut it all at once. That's an option. Any, even like a heavy piece of cardboard, if you cut a 12-inch piece and just wrapped your ribbon around it and then just slit it off and cut it all at once, and then you have your 12-inch pieces, that makes it go a little faster too. Okay, last one. And get this one added. Okay, so, all right. Here's my last one. Now, I will say, when you use the shared holes, the holes are a little farther apart than, what they normally are. And so it's always okay, if necessary, if you want to add a little dab of glue under where you have your shared holes, or even any of them, quite honestly. If you really feel like you're going to be pulling hard to make your adjustments, then go ahead and add a little dab of glue, and that'll help secure the ribbon. I don't plan on pulling that hard, and I feel like these are pretty secure, and I'm going to be using this to make sure they're as tight as possible, so I'm not going to worry about glue. Now, that last one I just added was here, so the only thing I need to do is I need to just kind of do this with this was the first petal I put in, because I was following the pattern of always having the left petal over the right one. So that last one I put in was the only one that was kind of backwards. So I just made that little adjustment. So this tool just grabs the zip tie in these little teeth, and you pull the trigger. If it needs to be tightened, it will tighten it, and then you'll pull it a second time to cut it. But as you can see, most of these are cutting on the first try here. So that means that they are I already pulled them tight enough manually. Okay. All right. So there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and add the center and the hanger and all that first before I start any adjustment, because if you know ribbon, it is wired, but it'll do kind of what it wants. And since I'm going to be flipping it over, I know I'm going to end up having to fix things anyways. So I just used fish line for my hanger. Okay. It holds 30 pounds, so it does really well with any kind of wreaths, because I don't make wreaths that weigh 30 pounds. So this is good. It's never going to break. And then again, on your Unique in the Creek board, row 1, you have those 2 extra holes there. Those are your hanging holes. So I am just going to feed my my fish line that I'm holding on to here. I know you're not really going to see because the fish line is clear, but just feed it through the 2 holes and put a knot in it at the end. Again, if you have, you can also be using twine. A longer zip tie will work for this. I've even seen people use ribbon to make their hanger. Okay, so just a knot at the end. So now it's going to hang. Okay, and let's go ahead. Now again, I'm using my glitter center. If you bought a kit, you're probably going to want to make your felt center. I would probably do it before you do the wreath, just because you're doing a lot of hot gluing and you want that to dry. You will need to add a pipe cleaner. I usually do not include those in the kit, but most people do have a pipe cleaner on hand. Or you can use some other method of attaching if you wish. There are cable tie mounts and things like that you can also use. I prefer the pipe cleaners. So here's my green glitter, and so all I'm going to do, it's got the pipe cleaner already attached. All I'm going to do is find an opposite set of holes here on this row and feed this through. Just like that. Okay, and pull it until it's tight. I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Okay, so as you can see, it went through the opposite holes. Okay, and then I'm going to give this a couple of twists to secure it. Okay, and from here you can do a couple of things. You can trim off the ends. You can, what I normally do is I sort of feed this through the zip tie, one of the zip ties, and kind of tuck it under. Makes it pretty permanent, but not 100% permanent in case I needed to take it off for any reason. You can also trim the ends and put like a piece of packing tape over it. The whole point is you want this to be flat. These are great wreaths for people that have storm doors and need their wreath to fit between 2 doors, because it's very flat in style, as you can see here. Okay, and the whole point, you want to keep it so that there's nothing on the back that's going to obstruct it hanging, nothing that's going to scratch anyone's door or anything like that. Okay, so here is our cute little ribbon wreath. Okay, so it's very easy to put together, great for beginners. Again, if you wanted to break this up and not have so much of all one color, if you're doing this on your own, my suggestion, I would probably say maybe do one kind of ribbon on rows 1 and 3 and something else on 2 and 4. Okay, you could do every other, you know, put one kind here, then a different kind here. There's so many options and things that you can do. And honestly, now that I'm looking at it, that it's done, as far as me making a whole bunch of adjustments to the ribbon, I'm honestly not really doing a whole lot. I don't see the board. I don't see any zip ties from previous rows. I'm pretty happy with how everything is laying. I think if there was a wonky petal that was going like this or something, I would just flatten it, but I actually don't have any of that going on. So that's all. Hope you enjoyed this project. Again, check the description box below for things like links to my Etsy shop. If there are kits in stock, they would be listed there. You would also be able to find completed wreaths if you're interested in purchasing a completed wreath. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube for lots of other tutorials. I do flowers, I do flower centers, I do deco mesh wreaths with ribbon, bows, petal folding. There's all kinds of videos, so feel free to check out and subscribe. I'm also very active on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest if you would like to follow me there. And again, check the description box. I'll leave a list of the supplies that I used. I'll leave a link to my Amazon affiliate shop if you're interested in things like the zip tie gun, scissors, cutting mats, any of the supplies that I use. And then of course the link to Unique in the Creek where you can buy the wreath boards. Thank you for watching. I again hope this was helpful and have a great day everyone. Take care.